Hi, everyone. Very warm welcome to all of you to day three of Skills Week. And our theme for the Skills Week is building a skills first organization. And we're bringing this conversation to you in partnership with Skillsoft. And I'm your host for today. So, we are speaking today about a theme that's probably a really sought after theme, which is leading with a heart, harnessing coaching for human centric leadership. Now, we've talked over the last 2 days around the impact of technology, the role of AI in sort of augmenting the learning process. And today we'll deal with the other side of it, which is the human connect and the human connection that's really required for augmenting learning as well, right? Companies are really facing challenges around technology disruption and the evolving workforce dynamics. And there's really a need for human centric coaching that's evolving that to not just nurture work but also leadership excellence and really drive a holistic development of the talent. So we have a panel of experts today who are going to break down this topic and look at some of the key issues from different industry perspectives. I'm very excited to introduce them to you today. First, we have Ruchi Aluvalia, who's the Group Chief People Officer at Questcorp Limited. And Ruchi is an astute HR leader and business partner and a senior professional in human resources from HRCI. And she's a champion in designing and implementing HR initiatives that are in alignment with organizational goals and strategy to achieve operational excellence. Great to have you with us, Ruchi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for having me here.
Wonderful. We also have with us Sumit Sabharwal, who represents Fujitsu as the VP for Head of HR Shared Services at Fujitsu International Regions. And in his current role, Sumit is responsible for delivering HR transformation for Fujitsu across 40 countries, leading a multidisciplinary team of over 50,000 employees. He's also a LinkedIn top voice, and I'm pretty sure you would have seen one of his posts. Great to have you with us, Sumit. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be on the call, Jerry. Thank you.
Right. So joining us also is Arun Rao, Chief People Officer for BirlaSoft. Arun is also a member of the executive board of BirlaSoft, and he has over 28 years of experience in IT and ITES, finance, and internet industries. And he's widely regarded for his insights and opinions on HR, talent development, and leadership. Great to have you with us, Arun.
Thank you, Jerry. Sorry for giving you the scares, technology scares initially, but nice to be here on the call.
That's right. But we're so happy that the glitches are resolved. Arun had some issues with joining this call, but we're so happy that to have you here. Divyesh Sindwat, who is the Vice President and Country Head of Skillsoft, is joining us as the moderator for this discussion. And in his current role, he is the Area VP for Skillsoft, a global edtech company, and he's responsible for leading a high performance team that supports customers across India and the SAARC region in expanding their digital agenda and going beyond technology implementation to drive business results. Thank you so much, Divyesh, for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So I'd like to remind our audience that we have block time at the end of this conversation for questions. So should you have any thoughts, reflections during the session, please feel free to use the chat section, the chat window that has, if you're joining us on the stream, it's in the right-hand side of your screen. And you can post your thoughts, comments, questions at any time during the discussion, and we will share it with our speakers and then take it up as the conversation progresses. Yeah. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Divyesh.
Thank you so much, Jerry. And thank you, People Matters team, for this opportunity. And thank you to our panel of speakers here. I'm so excited to be here talking about this very relevant topic in today's times and having this diverse set of speakers with that kind of experience and that we are going to dive into over the next hour or so. But here's how we are going to do this for our audience and for our speakers. So what I wanted to do is, while Jerry has set a quick context, I wanted to spend the first 5 minutes in sharing a point of view in terms of how we are seeing coaching play a role in terms of human-centric leadership, okay, through a few slides. And we leave about 5 minutes at the end for gathering questions that might be there from the audience. And in between, we'll use about 50 or 45 to 50 minutes for our discussion in terms of a set of questions that we prepared to dive deeper on the topic. Does that sound good, everyone? Are we good? Fantastic. So let me quickly bring up my slides and we'll jump in for Skillsoft POV. If somebody could just confirm my slides are visible.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. So this is the mandatory safe harbor statement. But to begin with, and this shouldn't be a surprise for anyone, okay, I wanted to start by looking at the nature of the business environment that we operate in today. Obviously, we are living in hyper disruptive times, okay. The speed at which disruption is impacting the business is accelerating year after year. Technology and AI is evolving, and it is impacting the way we operate from a day-to-day perspective, which in fact, as World Economic Forum and a lot of research that has been done in the space highlights, is impacting the skill sets across industries and across job roles. All in all, there is certain bit of uncertainty given the macroeconomic environments, and what we are seeing over here is that this is basically emerging into the trends that impact the CHROs or the HR and L&D fraternity at large. Okay, what Gartner suggests is that there is still that unsettled employee-employer relationship dynamic which is at play. Okay, you may recall this started at COVID times with the Great Resignation and all of that. I've just spoken about skills shortages and the challenges around skills being changing and all of that, the shelf life of skills going down and etc. Okay, there is a race in terms of being ahead of the curve when it comes to transformative technology innovations, and there is obviously that continuous pressure in terms of delivering operational efficiencies and all of that. Okay, and while all of these disruptions and trends are impacting the CHROs, there is a clear set of priorities which is coming out of it. Okay, and one of the major and the top priority on the chart, as you see it over there, is leader and manager development. Now, why do you think this is the case, and why is leader and manager development so critical when it comes to 2024 and beyond? Okay, one of the main reasons that we are seeing is that first, of course, leaders and managers are at the forefront of this transformation, and second, there are new expectations being placed on these leaders, okay, which requires them to adopt a new approach. So when it comes to, for example, role model behavior, okay, leaders earlier were required to be professional, enabling workplace boundaries, but today leaders are expected to be more personal, okay, enabling a safe environment for self-expression for their employees. Okay, when it comes to supporting teams, earlier we used to have leaders address work-related needs of employees to help them be more productive. But today, leaders are expected to see employees or as people as a whole and try and address their life needs, not just the work needs. Beyond that, from a deliverable point of view, obviously delivering results is paramount. But then, given the variety of transformation that we have seen in the way we operate and the disruption given technology and other elements, okay, there is a shift from managing standardized workflows to basically managing individualized, tailored, flexible workflows. And all in all, what this is doing is basically, putting us in a situation where to help leaders, managers, and organization at large, okay, more and more companies are looking at taking up skills transformation as a strategic initiative at large. Okay, now any transformation for that matter is an iterative process, starting with assessing the baseline where the gaps are, okay, providing those learning experiences and content to drive knowledge to fill in those gaps, okay, provide avenues for practice and application in a safe environment, and of course taking the time to reflect and measure how the skills transformation journey has delivered the right results, and then going around it altogether. And this is where we believe coaching can play a very big role. What we are seeing at Skillsoft is that coaching today is, and coaches today per se, are playing the role of that catalyst or sutradhar, if for people speaking Hindi, for human-centric leadership. Coming to a topic, okay, and at Skillsoft we are seeing this in action with our experience of supporting various organizations globally, okay, with a unique combination of the ICF certified coaches, AI and personalized platform to drive engagement and allowing anytime access to coaches on any devices, and delivering that cutting edge and content coming in from reputed sources like MIT Sloan and other experts to drive those right outcomes, whether it is at an individual level, team level, or at an organization level. But the most important or interesting trend that I've seen, and what we have been very excited about, is the fact that we are looking at organizations leveraging coaching from a one size fits all to a very purpose driven approach now, okay, to drive key outcomes. So whether it is harnessing coaching, for example, promoting diversity or leading a digital transformation initiative, harnessing coaching for managing change, or coming to our topic today, which is leading with a heart and harnessing coaching for human-centric leadership. So with that, what I would want to do is at this point in time, go with go back to my panel of speakers here and bring them in for their insights. So let me begin with you, Sumit. Okay, I've just discussed, the kind of interplay that we are seeing in terms of, the business environment with the rapid change in technology, AI, and disruptions which are happening. So where do you see coaching become an important tool? Okay, and how do you think coaching can play that role in terms of helping leaders prepare and navigate these challenges that they are seeing today? Your thoughts on this, Sumit?
Okay. I hope I'm audible. Divesh,
Yes.
a brilliant point. I mean, I'll just give a bit of context before making a point. Is a lot of times we used to see erstwhile coaching as a kind of delight which only senior executive gets, and we kind of get to know celebrity. Now I think coaching today has become a part and parcel of life, so I think first we need to recognize that, and I think that's the most important thing that we need to do. uh, I think while we talk a lot about technology, I'm very pleased that we're talking about coaching, because the human aspects that comes with technology has to be over a period of time looked into. Erstwhile coaching was more towards the fact that you would focus around on developing yourself from technical to more of managerial skills. And today, typically, a manager is dealing with digital skills, employee skills, technology skills. There are a number of EX, DX, and number of X we are talking about. So typically, an individual is confused, and coaching is a way where it kind of show you a path. I mean, it is very well said. Coaching is a way of showing you hope within yourself. So when we deal with these different roles of playing a role of a technology specialist or a digital transformation or a human centric, I think those things play important roles. So first, I think it is something which is not a luxury, but it is something the need of the hour that we are typically looking at. Also, I typically feel that while coaching was more towards the fact that it is a face-to-face conversation, uh, with all enabled technology and AI we're talking about, we're basically taking it to a larger audience, and it's kind of addressing some of the key competencies. Erstwhile, it was more about coaching you on skills of how to deal with your team and communicate and feedback, performance feedback, and dealing with decisions making strategic was a part of it. Today, coaching is largely catering around on emotional intelligence. I mean, it's by Forrester, which kind of talks about human centric leadership, and it says if you do build in quite a bit of human-centric leadership, you see approximately a 17% jump in your employee engagement as well as you kind of see in productivity. So today coaching is seen a lot more on building employee resilience in terms of dealing with situations, which can also be termed as employee kind of emotional intelligence. And also another part that where it then kind of helps an individual is while we're performing different roles, help us kind of build a part of what we call as I said, resilience around on how do we deal with different situations and move around. So I think my take on this situation is while AI and other things, we're going to talk a little bit about how it has enabled and it has gone to the scale. My key message is in my opening remark is that coaching is now for all, which I think we should fairly feel proud about it. It's a tool that we should leverage more because of technology. And I think it's opening up various facets where erstwhile we were doing one or two roles, now we are doing 6 or 7 roles at any given point of time, wearing different hats. It does build in your emotional intelligence as well as build in your resilience. And I'm sure there are a lot of other aspects my colleagues will talk through would be there. But that's my take on this situation, Devesh.
Hey, Divish, can I just pick up the thread from where Sumit
Absolutely,
just left
absolutely. I
and
was just
add a
about
few
to
perspectives?
open it up. Yes,
Um,
please.
yeah. So there were some amazing thoughts that Sumit brought in terms of democratization of the access of coaching. But I will want to go back to your initial question about the fact that today's workforce um, is facing a very radical rate of change of technologies that they're working on, right? That change is very unprecedented. People believe that they are experts in some particular stuff, and that goes back to that shelf life that you're talking of. Shelf life of some amazing tools these days is not more than 6 to 8 months to 12 months. So there's this constant fear of the unknown, and only the best kind of stay ahead of the curve. And in this kind of a scenario, the role of the manager stroke leader, and for a minute we'll leave coaching aside, and I want to focus on the human centered element of the subject line, right? I think the role of the manager changes, and you rightly said about about the asks of a manager moving away from managing pure tasks to things beyond tasks. But to the entire audience and to the panelists here, I want to state how I grew up in the industry, and in that sense, perhaps I'm slightly archaic compared to all of you. I was actually brought up by managers for whom task was just another thing of the arsenal that they actually marshaled when they shaped me. It was all about the people orientation along with task orientation that that qualified managers as great managers, as leaders as great leaders. People who confine themselves to tasks, allocating tasks, taking reviews on tasks. I think the impact they made on their people was only so much. And therefore, you will see that when you look back in your life, there'll be those 2 or 3 leaders who would stand out in a journey of close to 25, 30 years. And they would be guys who would have known you by your name, what your preferences were, perhaps if you're married, your spouse's name, else where you came from, how you graduated, stuff like that. So it was always an implicit expectation that a leader ought to be doing more than the task. But in the fast-paced frenzy that we find ourselves today, I think people very conveniently forgot that and focused on the task, because that the short-term orientation always kind of works with that. But the minute we are now faced with a workforce which is technologically adept, is perhaps extremely good with social media, but find themselves very lonely. It's a kind of it's a conundrum that confuses me many a times, but that's the reality. And it's in those moments that they look for a manager, a leader who's able to connect with them at an emotional level, right? And therefore and that's why this thing became so fascinating for me, that here you're talking of technology becoming so intrusive, like, and and pardon me, I really don't know what the tone of the discussions for the last 2.5 days has been, but one of the things I wanted to tell you was that one of the names that struck me and has been always striking me for the last 3 months since I've been hearing about this AI stuff is Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming is not the guy who discovered AI in open AI. Alexander Fleming is the guy who discovered penicillin. And if people remember, the minute he discovered penicillin, it became a wonder drug which was supposed to cure every illness that was on earth at that point in time. And sometimes I feel, are we doing a pencil into technology with AI? We ought to know that there'll be technology will enable. We should be smart enough to use technology to expand reach, to improve effectiveness. But according to me, the leader who will make an impact in today's world, in tomorrow's world, will be the guy who will be able to make the emotional connect with his or her people. And in that sense, this entire thing about the human-centric aspect of leadership becomes very, very paramount. The ability to beget trust, and thereby impact, like Sumit said about the connected workforce being engaged and engaged workforce being more productive. I think that begins with the leader being able to create those strands of bond with his or her team. I think that's why this becomes very, 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 very impactful. And then coaching is about helping people discover, and I do not want to belabor that, but the whole thing about enhancing performance through a through a coaching style of management is perhaps the best that the industry can get today. But to be able to harness the power of coaching, you need to have that human-centered leader at the core of it. And therefore, I find this topic very compelling. I'm sorry, I must have spoken more than what you would have wanted me to, but
Sure, okay,
I am so much
this
in
is
love
relevant.
with this concept.
Absolutely, and that's what, in fact, one of the posts that I made for this event on social media was that this is a topic that I'm pretty fascinated with, and I absolutely relate to you when you said that. And if I were to summarize it, basically what we are using here, coaching for, is basically to go back and remind managers to go beyond those tasks and be a human first, and then be a manager or a leader, right? Because it goes kind of hand in hand in today's context, because that's what is important. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of us in teams are basically trying to figure out the unknown in a lot of ways, right? Including AI for that matter, because nobody knows how and where it is going to land, how and more, what kind of disruptions are going to come through, okay, and what kind of benefits are going to come through, and we are all figuring it out together. And that's where I think the human at the center makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Arun. So let me, on that note, go to Ruchi. And Ruchi, we were just discussing about the kind of the kind of this thing that you got in best place to work, that uptick, that from ranking perspective and all of that. And it reminded me of the fact that it's possible to be ranked best place to work and all of that only if you have the right culture. Okay. And since we are discussing coaching and leadership, and culture plays a very important role in this. So how do you see, all of this coming together from a coaching culture point of view? And how do you basically leverage your business teams and your managers in driving that cultural element to meet some of the challenges that we discussed in the beginning of the discussion?
Sure. So, Divyesh, I mean, I can't emphasize more on the importance of culture, because culture is nothing but, a collective behavior. So you have organization who behaves in a certain way, which means majority of the people behave in that way, which means that their behaviors are also aligned together to achieve a specific purpose. And as easy as it sounds, we are dealing with a diverse set of people in Quest, even more, with both the number of people, with about 600,000 people, with all kinds of possible diversities of gender or ability or educational background or industrial experience, and the demographics, so to say, region, religion, age groups, all the X, Y, Z generations all put together. So I think it makes it more complex, because each one style thinking is different, and for that, probably that there's value that they bring to the table. But what we do, or what I believe in, is one, if you work on the culture piece of it, it is more sustainable and consistent. And in order to do that, one of the most important element is communication. So, for instance, if we are talking about human-centric leadership, right, or this is something that we expect all our leaders to behave or to display, then why? What is in it for them? Why is it helpful? Why is it needed? How is it linked to our larger purpose? What are the success stories? That communication, continuous communication, is very, very important. And as Arun also mentioned, right from the top, it starts from the top. That if your senior leaders, they might come from a different generation, or they might have different styles, but unless they start to display it, walk the talk, it doesn't really percolate, or it is not taken that seriously, is what we've experienced. So communication is number one. Second thing is, when you start to make it a part of your evaluation, because whatever gets measured gets done. So, for instance, if you bring it as a part of performance culture, because what we talk about in our company are great managers, and great managers are people who care for performance and who care for people. So then it becomes a part of performance evaluation, it becomes a part of growth. And which generation doesn't like growth? All the people want to grow, right? They want to develop, they want to become their better version, they want to take better, bigger positions, and so on and so forth. um, in terms of measurement, another important aspect is, let's say there is a coaching program that you have signed up for. Sumit mentioned about the democratization of coaching, which means it is much more accessible, much more available to everybody. And in order for the whole organization to really adopt to a certain style, you would need to make it more and more available to everybody. Like, coaching should be something which is accessible by many people. Now, if in doing so, you're also creating another problem, is that you lose track of where is it going. We don't know what is the outcome of this coaching, where are we headed. And especially when it comes to leadership style, you can't like simply measure it, right? Like it is an abstract term. So in that case, real measurement of the intervention, so to say, where are we headed, what are the goals, individual goals in this case, how, where do they stand vis-a-vis within internal parity as well as market practices, so to say. What is the ROI of such programs then becomes very important. So evaluation and measurement of the programs or interventions, so to say. And last but not the least is ease, which again Sumit touched upon, on accessibility of it. Not just by saying it, but really making it. I mean, assume now your leaders are very, very much aligned to this concept, and they want coaching. You are also evaluating them on the same, but then you don't make it so available. So then again, it also involves cost, which can't be like, you go for an intervention and spend crores and crores rupees in 1 year and be done with it. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a constant process. So again, how do you make it accessible? So in terms of technology, for example, both from an ease of adopting it, and second is from making it more visible and more measurable. I would assume that the coaching platforms come very, very handy. Because again, conventionally, coaching would be seen as, you meet one on one, you meet somewhere, and then it's a 12 months program, and then you choose your coaches, and then the company spends a lot of money into it, then you track. So it becomes very complicated. So again, technology really helps it. Second thing is, how can you practice it? You've learned, we're talking about human-centric leader, right? Now, where do you actually practice it? Of course, with your people, but if there is a way where technology can really support us in role playing, or in really on a real time basis having a conversation, I would say then it is more easy for people to really adopt it. So that then becomes very, very easy for people to really take it. And then talking about it from a learning perspective, talking about that, how important it is. Learning is important to the organization. Creating time for people to do it, not just focusing. Everybody wants to just focus on business. And you're talking human centric, you're talking coaching. Now, where is the time? People have only so much time, right? You don't want them to only work on weekends for all such topics, and that's what, really sometimes happen, that sometimes people topics become, the last priority. Business comes first. So I think that has to come forward. People should become in the center, and these items should take priority. So really, allocating time for that. So communication, evaluation, and accessibility, ease of making things, making the coaching available to people. um,
Fantastic.
Help
Thank you so
them.
much for that, Ruchi. I've taken a bunch of pointers there, and I think the key theme that came out was, in terms of not just making it available, finding time, and providing avenues for practice. And I think that's where we have seen a lot of excitement from our customers based on some of the innovation that we have done in that place, that space. So for example, just for our audience, there is something called Skillsoft-KC, which allows you to practice and have a role play in a certain environment to get feedback, constructive feedback, and improve your ability to navigate certain tricky situations from a workplace point of view. And I think AI can play a very big role there. Technology can play a very big role there, because minus technology and AI, it's just impossible to do something like that. Yep. So on that note, I'll actually pivot to my next question, and I'll come to you, Arun, for that. Okay. Traditionally, and I think there was a lot of this thing around democratization. I think all three of you said that. But traditionally, coaching has always been, because of the cost factor and all of that, restricted to the elite few. Okay. How do you see technology and AI, okay, making coaching more accessible, inclusive, you know, and scalable? Because in today's context, most organizations are becoming, horizontally, say basically a flat structure, following a flat structure. And in a flat structure, it's important that they have leaders across different levels and not just restricting it at a certain level and above. So coaching can play a very big role. So how do you see all of this coming together?
Right. And therefore, I have a very different point of view here. And my point of view is that when you talk coaching, it's an art of conversation. It's an art of leadership and art of management, with an objective to deliver a certain outcome. I do not, at this point of time, when you talk of scalability, organizations having the problem of scalability, I will not restrict the paradigm of coaching to a set of ICF certified coaches. I will talk of coaching as the way a manager deals with his or her subordinate, with his or her teams. Can I bring in that flavor? The way people ask, like, what happens in a typical coaching. I'm not an ICF certified coach, so I would not know the technicalities. But as a coach, you are not expected to provide the solution. You are supposed to help the protege or the coachee to discover the solution by asking questions. You will keep double clicking on questions, probing, and take it to a level where there is self discovery, and the coachee is able to kind of then come up with a solution, and you kind of act as a sounding board for that solution and give the confidence to the coachee to go and implement it. I am seeing the scalability point of coaching to be the only way it is possible for organizations is when they demand that their managerial population imbibe and develop this skill. And that is where I liked what Ruchi said in terms of the culture. So the culture should be something which is pervasive enough for people to understand that task orientation is no longer a success mantra, right? And therefore this is a necessary expected behavior which will be monitored, evaluated, and reinforced. How you do that is another matter altogether. Different organizations will have different. Like I totally agree that what will not be measured will not get done. But I think organizations will need to come back and attack it through that all pervasive culture element, make it a standard expectation, and for people to scale up to this new reality, use technology. They use whatever means in which you can help people build skills. It might be possible that not 100% of your managers can become effective coaches, but there will be a significant people who will turn the tide, especially when they understand that it is a critical success factor going forward, right? And then you create the platform where, and I've actually fully endorsed that. In fact, it is in my desire, my bucket list for this company to have a platform where there is two kinds of coaching available. There is a kind of a semi permanent stuff, and I would want people to actually choose their coaches, because I think there needs to be I won't say a sense of awe, but when a coachee gets into a relation with a coach, I think there has to be that acceptance that here is a person who can help me. I don't want, in today's fast-paced environment, I don't want the coach to spend too much of time trying to beget that loyalty from the coachee. So if there is a platform that I can create, a kind of an internal marketplace, depending on what, like you guys said, right? Depending on different scenarios, a person might want coaching of a different, style. Let's assume they're going to go and pitch a deal to a client. The kind of coaching that person might need might be slightly different from I need to get into a tricky conversation with my subordinate. Just making it up. But I'm saying that these are fairly situational in their construct, and this is perhaps not the classical way one looked at coaching, when we would pick up senior level people and their only developmental agenda would be served by engaging with a coach for 12 to 14 to 18 months. This could be much more transitionary, just like learning, kind of deconstructed itself from 6-day courses to learning on the go. And you guys have been kind of pioneers in learning on the go. I'm assuming that coaching will also have to undergo that evolution.
Absolutely.
And platforms can be a great way to create that marketplace.
Yep.
Right?
No,
and
I
then
think
you could always bring in preferences and feedback and stuff like that can kind of get added on as bells and whistles to that. But two important things for scalability, I think internal managers will need to be helped to scale up, to change their conversation styles to coaching, and then make sure that your culture becomes all pervasive and people understand that they will be accountable for their actions, and then finally create a marketplace where the coaches and coachees can actually come together depending upon their mutual preferences.
absolutely, and I think in a way technology has evolved to that. Okay, so I don't want to say this thing, but then we are doing that already. Sorry, Ruchi, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
And I
I can
use
just
Sumit
add
after
to
for his comments here.
Yeah, I can just add to what Arun mentioned on your question, build it up. See, I totally agree that coaching is something that it has to be a desire from within, right? And that's the culture part of it, which we just spoke about. But I strongly believe, and we have seen enough and more examples in my company itself, we can talk about it if needed, where technology has expedited that culture. So it has really enabled that culture.
Yeah.
How? There's something called as human experience, which we practice and we speak about a lot. Now, what is human experience? Human experience has got two elements. One, it is employee led, and second, it is personal. And if you see all of us here, right, draw parallel to your retail experience, right, your online buying, it is dramatically change the way we would go ahead and shop, right? Why I could choose my hours when I have time. It could be a weekday, weekend, on the go, late evening times. Whenever I feel I have that time, I'd like to do that. Similarly, that it is it you can track, there are suggestions available now. All of this technology has enabled. So similarly for coaching, if there are things like, for example, somebody recommends me that, if I've put these are my needs and somebody recommends me that, look, these are the coaches or these are the programs available for your needs. Somebody evaluates me for my current status and maybe compares me to the rest of the organization or to the people, similar leaders outside of my organization, or to a position, if it is linked to a position which I am gunning for. It makes so much more relevance for me. I not only have accessibility, I also have the drive to really, we all get very motivated with goals and try to beat our own own self. So all of this is available in technology, which is otherwise not available. So I feel technology really plays a very, very important part into expediting this culture or making it much more and more accessible to people.
Got it. Got it. Sumit, I know you are also equally passionate about this. So why don't you come off mute and share your thoughts?
Yeah. So I mean, I represent a technology company. We spend quite a bit of time for innovation, and with all due respect to what Ruchi and Arun talked about, like different organizations could be on different stages of setting up the culture, getting the mindset. We are at a point where we've kind of went through the similar journey, and it's quite an intense journey about a couple of years back. And today, I think to a lot of audience on the call right now, they would look forward to us to kind of give examples, then kind of talk about the surface level. I mean, I'll give you some of these things that we've done at least in the last 2 or 3 years, because I think the reason why we are on this call is to state some examples. So Fujitsu, a couple of years back, went through a similar cycle like Arun and Ruchi talked about in terms of, and we went with Coach Hub. Most of our programs are designed in a way global because we are a global company. So we run our coaching global. So it's Coach Hub. We're not kind of just stuck with ICF, ACC, PCC. So Coach Hub has been instrumental, and that's where for the first time we realized coaching is not within the country, face to face. It's around the world, and you want to get experiences. So one of the advantages of what Ruchi said in terms of technology is leverage it. If you're truly a multinational, have coaches through a platform where they can talk to each other and can kind of work through. I mean, there are other platforms. Skillsoft is one part of it, which is kind of building it up. We've got Rocky AI, Praxi, RiseSmart by Randstand. There are a lot of partners in the market today, and I think uh, the sense of thinking to acting is less now because I think it's on demand, and I think people don't want to wait for it. Coaching is today like getting up and doing meditation 30 days. I have a problem. I want to go to an app, put the problem, and do. Today, we are getting the pulse of the organization checked through an Infido Amber, which I think most of us would know on this call to kind of get through. So, why can't we get a pulse of an organization and immediately kind of give? And another 2 years down the line, the AI will even understand the coaching technique of asking questions. So you really do not need an ICF coach to come and ask you question, which is like kind of how are you feeling? The robot will talk, the AI will talk. So like let's be really sure about that the technology is coming with the speed. We need to act fast. So I think that's some of the examples I would say on technology, and we are on the roadmap where we've implemented that, and our Our leadership programs are not designed where you get into a room and you first do a reflection with an FF34 or a kind of a Gallup survey. You typically immediately get a coaching app from day one and you execute. Of course, with an understanding that the organization culture is embedded with that mindset, and we kind of live it by that. The minute we put you into a managerial role, from that day itself, we are making the tool available. So I think, again, as Arun said, maturity level of organizations could differ. I just wanted to put some examples on what with Coach Hub typically that we work, and of course we are seeing is something beneficial that we see and at scale level. So just an add on to that.
Uh,
Thanks, Devesh.
Thank you, Sumit. I'll just stay with you, Sumit, for on this because there's an interesting question that has come on chat from one of our audience. It talks about how do you basically develop metrics to evaluate the outcomes. You spoke about the example that you're doing. Okay, yeah, what you're doing already at Fujitsu. Okay, so could you also please specify a few parameters by which you evaluate the outcomes from this coaching initiative?
Yeah. Again, I'll not give you a very conventional, not a very popular answer. The first thing we get ourselves into is dimensions of, what should be parameters of communication, resilience, and I kind of said, I'll stick to a very simple parameter of emotional intelligence. We just want to kind of make it sure that one, for me, the parameters actually not black and white would be parameters that are we creating a platform, and I talk in platform, I'm not talking in terms of person. Are we creating a platform that when a person needs it, is it available? Just like recognition, when you want to recognize people, you should recognize. So for me, in a matrix, the environment would be that do you have a platform that this individual would be able? In a coach hub scenario that we have, typically we make it sure that you can sign it up available coach within a week's time and you can talk. So availability of the platform is one parameter. Second, we take feedback very seriously. So once you kind of typically take a coaching session, we make it sure that we do kind of ask you for a feedback that did you get a desired outcome out of this? Because giving coaching and making it available is one, but making it sure whether you're kind of getting the benefit, which is an ROI, is critical. So I think those two parameters would be there. Besides that, I think gone are the days that you're going to sit and evaluate the competency of a coach, how much he's good at listening, how much we are able to respond is there. The technology is driving it. Two parameters. Are you making it available? Because with the Gen Z's X and Y, they want this now. My problem is now, solve it now. And then is there a feedback mechanism? So I think in my world, these two things are critical, and that's what we very closely watch.
Thank you,
And I just
Sumit.
want to add one thing to Tivish. I just want to add one thing. And
Sure.
the thing was that to whoever asked that question, I think you should remember that every coaching assignment, even in that classical coaching framework, it is always set with an end objective in mind, and therefore to define a metric to see whether that objective was met or not is a practical outcome, and very nicely and succinctly put by the framework that Fujitsu has adopted. I think there's a larger thing that you can always whatever employee pulse checks that organizations do, whether it is the standard classical surveys or pulse checks, poll questions. I think every once in a while one could always check back about the effectiveness of coaching availability and stuff like that. So one is case in point, the individual who's benefited from that, and the other could be a pan organization pulse check, whether the intervention itself is going as planned and what are the scopes for improvement there. I think both can go hand in hand.
Absolutely. No, I think very well said, Arun. And in fact, that's exactly where I think platforms like Skillsoft are going, right? So going back to Ruchi's point, which she mentioned sometime back in terms of benchmarking where the learner is today in the journey. Okay, aligning that option of making coaching available anytime, choosing the coach which they are comfortable with, okay, and purpose driven coaching intervention to drive that right outcome, okay, which has to match not just from an individual perspective but even from an organizational perspective, because at the end of the day, you need to balance the two, okay, and basically even going through those elements of practice or giving those elements of surveys and feedbacks and all of that to measure how and what has happened from a moving the needle point of view. Yeah, so thank you so much for that. Okay, so let me go to another question from the audience here. Okay, and it's pretty interesting one. Unfortunately, we don't have the names of the people who are asking, but this is again a good one. What kind of a mindset shift do we need, especially when leaders are resistant to coaching? I'm keeping it open. Anybody who wants to go first? I'll repeat the question. Mindset shift that we need, especially when leaders are resistant to coaching. Executive sponsorship is golden, right? But nothing moves without executive sponsorship. So how do we get that?
Yep.
So, okay, I'll probably try and answer it a bit differently, um, because we spoke about being certified. So I'm a certified coach, but what we're taught in that is coaching is not. It's like, like if you go to a doctor. I mean, it's not like you can prescribe a medication. So coaching has to be self-driven. It means that the coachee has to come forward to say that, look, I feel I would like to get coached. So no matter what you do, make it mandatory or not, it will only be successful if there is the first step is taken by the coachee. So from that angle, I would read it differently. That if you're saying that the coachee is resistant, which means you are shoving coaching on him or her, and we as coaches are trained not to do that. So that's one part of it. Now I'd answer it differently. The only way you can really change somebody's mindset is through making it a culture, through talking about success stories, and through making that person realize that probably there is a need. So you can only influence the person, you can only inspire the person by showing enough examples, by talking about different leaders who are who've made it big or who have faced challenges and how they have overcome that. But finally, the onus is on the person. I have seen there are a lot of people who come who feel that if somebody has recommended them coaching, there is a problem in their leadership style, and they take it very negatively. And that's the first principle of coaching, that you'd not want somebody to be defensive. And then we've also seen people who come and they say that, look, I don't feel there's any problem, I'm pretty happy, I'm good, I'm doing this, my performance is so and so, however my manager recommended that I should talk to you, you are a coach. So the only way it is that the coach has to be influenced, that probably they need, and the only way you can do that is by showing also what is the desirable result versus where they are. To give you an example, we have a framework called as Connect, Develop, and Inspire in our company, on basis of which we evaluate all the people managers on their leadership ability, because that's a common benchmark across. And there is a set of 62 questions have gone again. It's all automated in a platform, basis which each one of them get their score, and they see where the need is. Like it may be develop or inspire or some areas around that, and then they form their own action plan. Now, while we make coaching available to them, it is also Marshall Goldsmith as a coach bot. You can answer. You can ask any question you want to. You can get coached from it. But beyond a point, we only make that available, and then we show results that the people who took it seriously, they have shown this success, and then you can't force anybody beyond it. So it just rests on the manager to really take it or not.
Hey,
My two
Divyesh,
cents.
Interesting.
I
Sorry,
sorry, Sumit, did you say something? I'll
No,
step
no,
back.
my just 2 cents very quickly on this situation. Very valid question. I think the problem typically I've seen most of the time is with the human resources department. How do we communicate? And the second part of it is how do we create a psychological safety? It just underlines to this simple principle that we think is that we need to get better at times of telling people, because the minute you say you need help to be a better manager, resistance come. And in that case, one, you should know, giving feedback and to anybody, you should know the technique of telling them that you may leverage on coaching. And second is, is your culture of the organization creating psychological safety? And I think that's where we can do a better job, let's put it this way, as
Yeah,
a department. So Arun, over to you.
agreed.
Yeah. So thankfully, I have something additional to contribute. Usually you'll say when you're third going into a particular point, everything has been maxed out. So my thinking was very very different, and I actually picked up a couple of words that you said were quoted in the question. What do you do if leaders themselves are not supportive or something like that? So for me, the operative word was leaders,
Yeah,
right? And I want to paint both a pessimistic and an optimistic picture of this. It depends on where are these leaders in the pecking order. If that is the CEO, then God help you, because this is not a HR department's intervention, right?
agreed.
Then we should not go this way at all. But it is important, and that's where two things that Ruchi and Sumit said. I pick up the success stories piece from Ruchi's statement on this. Whether even if it was a CEO, let's assume, then there must be somebody that the CEO reports into, the board perhaps. It is important for them, and if they genuinely believe that this is an important arsenal in terms of improving the culture of the organization, improving the capability of the organization, long term growth, and all the nice things, then it is important to convert that person first, because there are two elements of truth here. Before it becomes a part of the culture, it is top down. So people at the top have to buy in and have to be advocates of the intervention, right? And the second that Sumit said is about psychological safety. As you keep coming down the pecking order, it is important for people to understand that this is an all-in intervention, and B, it is not to find faults. It is about creating an enabling environment. So for me, the very very important piece is, where are those leaders in the pecking order? If they're somewhere which is like just above mid level or something like that, it's a much more manageable problem. But if they're right at the top, then I think there's too much of change management that one will need to kind of engineer. And we all need to understand that this is not an HR department's responsibility. It is the collective organization's responsibility.
Absolutely. No, I think very well said. And if I were to, summarize the discussion, and I know we are almost on time, so that's why I'm just getting to a summary from my end, and I'll pass it on to Jerry again. Okay. I think what came out of the discussion is very clearly that coaching is one of the most strongest mediums for organizations to basically build a culture of human-centric leadership. Okay, and clearly technology and AI is here to play a larger role in making it more accessible. Okay, and democratizing coaching. Okay, there are elements around bringing in that cultural support for coaching by educating and providing the psychological safety in terms of the benefits that coaching can offer, rather than looking at it as a corrective medium because performance is lacking or because there is something missing out and all of that. So it should be an opportunity to grow rather than opportunity to correct, and that's where communication plays a very big role. Yeah, fantastic. So thank you from my side to Ruchi, Arun, Sumit. I have learned a lot in the last 1 hour, and I pass it on to Jerry to wrap it up. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Divyesh, for that summary. I think it's really insightful conversation, and I think a lot of the questions that we had were around metrics and building that business case. And I think all of you sort of articulated that need, and I think the right perspective for us to look at this, right? I think not just like as Divyesh mentioned, not as a corrective procedure, but really as an opportunity, really to really embark on that journey of learning. And I think that's a great contribution. So thank you to all of our speakers for sharing their insights with us today. Remember, still it's day 3, and we have another day tomorrow with a masterclass on future readiness, and we hope you'll join us for that as well. And thanks to our audience as well for sharing their perspectives and their questions throughout the session today. I'd like to especially thank Ruchi, Arun, Divyesh, and Sumit for taking time for this discussion and sharing such wonderful insights. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Have a
all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.